Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so you sent in some really interesting sources looking at the Industrial Revolution and how artists reacted.
Yeah, it's a fascinating period. All those huge changes, factories, cities booming, just a whole new way of living.
Exactly. So today, we're going to unpack that. Our mission, really, is to get a handle on the main artistic movements, the big ideas and some key figures who are grappling with this new industrial world.
Because those societal shifts, they really do ripple through art, don't they? Artists weren't just like passive observers. Their work was a way to process it all.
Totally. So based on what you've been reading, let's jump right in. The first big wave, and you probably saw this, is Romanticism.
Ah, Romanticism, right.
So in simple terms, this was massive art, books, music, even just general attitudes. It really put the spotlight on emotions, imagination, the individual.
Yeah, what makes you unique? And this was kicking off, what, late 1700s, running into the mid 1800s, roughly.
Yeah, about that. And what was sparking it, do you think? Reading between the lines of those sources.
Well, you could say it was kind of pushing back against the Enlightenment's focus on pure reason, logic.
Okay, yeah.
And it lined up with the early days of, industrial growth. Suddenly you have these huge, noisy cities springing up. Quite a shock compared to the past.
Right. It feels like there was this real longing for nature, maybe a simpler time. The sources hinted at that contrast, didn't they? Industry versus, well, something more natural.
Definitely. And artists showed that longing in powerful ways. Nature wasn't just pretty scenery. It was often wild, untamed, powerful in their work.
And feelings got dialed up to 11.
Exactly. Intense emotions, individual passions, they were celebrated. Imagination was key, maybe as an escape or just a different way to understand things.
Speaking of intense feelings and powerful nature, Wuthering Heights comes to mind. Emily Bronte. Now, it's not explicitly about, factory life.
No, not directly.
But it feels so romantic. The raw emotion, the wild moors as a setting, these characters driven by overwhelming passions. It's all about that feeling over cold calculation.
Precisely. And in Wuthering Heights, the landscape itself, like you said, the wildness, it almost becomes a character reflecting their inner turmoil. It's a classic romantic trait seen in the materials.
Okay, another big name from France this time, Victor Hugo. Your sources might have mentioned him, known for really dramatic, passionate writing.
Hugo, Les Misérables, Notre Dame de Paris.
Right, and maybe the sources didn't draw a direct line from him to, say, specific factory conditions in every single work, but his focus was often on social justice, wasn't it? The individual struggling against society.
That's a great connection, because those themes became super relevant as industrialization caused more social upheaval. So while he might not be describing a spinning jenny, that romantic concern for the individual and social conscience is absolutely there.
And in music, Beethoven is huge here. Ludwig van Beethoven. He's seen as this pivotal figure, kind of bridging the gap from the more formal classical style to the much more emotional romantic style.
Yeah, his music just feels bigger, more personal.
Totally. More expressive, more individualistic. It just fits the whole romantic vibe we're talking about. What makes it sound romantic to you?
Well, it's like he broke the mold. The symphonies especially, they feel like these epic emotional journeys. Less about sticking to the old rules, more about raw feeling and individual expression. That's pure romanticism, like your sources described.
Okay, so emotion, nature, individual passion. Now, there's another flavor within Romanticism, the Gothic novel. Your reading might have touched on this. Think mystery, maybe horror, supernatural stuff.
Yeah, often set in like crumbling castles or isolated, spooky places.
Right. So what was that about? Just scary stories.
Well, maybe not just scary stories. That atmosphere, the mystery, the decay, exploring the darker side of humanity. You could argue it reflected anxieties about a world changing super fast. Rapid change can be unsettling, right?
Makes sense. Even if the monster isn't literally a steam engine, the feeling of unease is there.
Exactly. It taps into that uncertainty.
And the classic example here, one that weirdly connects to themes of industry and technology, is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Ah, yes, a cornerstone.
You've got this massive scientific ambition, creating life itself, goes horribly wrong. There are consequences.
Big time.
And you get themes like, artificial creation, the responsibility of the creator.
Yeah.
It touches on our relationship with technology, even if it's biological, not mechanical.
That's spot on. Frankenstein dives deep into the dangers of unchecked ambition, the ethics of playing God. Those questions about creation and responsibility, super relevant when you think about the massive technological leaps happening then, even if Shelley's focus was different.
Okay, so Romanticism is grappling with these changes through emotion, nature, sometimes fear. But then things shift again, right? Mid-1800s, we get realism.
Yep, realism emerges, and it's pretty much a reaction against all that high-flying romantic emotion and idealism.
So what's its focus instead?
It's about showing life as it actually was. Everyday stuff, ordinary people, the nitty-gritty social realities, trying to be truthful and objective about it.
Okay, so less about knights and castles, more about...
More about city streets, factories, the lives of regular folks, especially the working class. As the Industrial Revolution really took hold, the social issues, poverty, inequality, harsh working conditions became impossible to ignore. Realism wanted to put those front and center.
Right. Artists started painting and writing about the tough stuff. And a huge name here, especially in English literature, is Charles Dickens. You've probably come across him.
Oh, definitely. Dickens is central.
His novels just paint such a vivid picture of industrial England, particularly the lives of the poor, the marginalized. He wasn't afraid to point fingers at social injustice. Why was that shift to showing reality so important, do you think?
Well, I think there was a growing social conscience, maybe, a feeling that art should shed light on the human cost of all this progress. Dickens used stories to make people see the realities of poverty, maybe spark some change. It's about bearing witness, in a way.
Okay, then there's Franz Kafka. He's different.
Yeah, Kafka's harder to pin down as strictly realist in the same way as Dickens.
His work is more about, like, alienation, feeling lost in these huge, baffling systems, bureaucracy, the absurdity of modern life sometimes.
Exactly. Themes of the individual just crushed by forces they can't understand.
So maybe not depicting a literal factory floor, but reflecting that feeling of being dehumanized, like being a tiny cog in a giant impersonal machine, which kind of resonates with industrial society.
I think that connection makes a lot of sense. Kafka captures that psychological impact, the anxiety, the powerlessness that could come with living in a more complex, industrialized, bureaucratic world. It's a different angle on how modernity felt.
Okay, so realism tackles the tough truths. But then, late 19th century, mostly in France, we get another big shift. Impressionism.
Ah, the Impressionists. Yeah, a total change in style and focus.
It seems much less about social problems and more about light and color, capturing fleeting moments.
That's a good way to put it. They were fascinated by how light and color looked at a specific instant. And they often painted scenes of modern life, cityscapes, cafes, leisure activities.
What drove that change, moving away from the gritty stuff of realism?
Well, technology actually played a part, which is interesting given our topic. Your sources might mention things like new prepackaged paint tubes.
Oh, right. So they could paint outside more easily. Plein air painting.
Exactly. Made it easier to capture those fleeting effects of light outdoors. And also, photography was developing. That changed how people thought about capturing reality, maybe freeing painters up to focus more on subjective impressions rather than perfect accuracy.
So instead of here's a social problem, it was more like here's how this busy street looked and felt at this moment.
Pretty much. They painted the new urban experience, the boulevards, the parks, the railway stations, people enjoying new kinds of leisure time that came with changes in society.
What do those paintings tell us about the time then?
They offer a glimpse into the sensory experience of modern life in these growing cities. The hustle and bustle, the changing light, the social interactions in new public spaces. It's a different kind of truth than realism sought.
Okay, key figures. Edouard Manet is often mentioned.
Yes. Manet is crucial. He's often seen as bridging realism and impressionism. He painted contemporary Parisian life, which was kind of radical then, breaking from historical or mythological scenes.
So he paved the way.
In a big way. He challenged conventions about what art should depict and how. That opened the door for the Impressionists to really run with modern subjects and experiment with technique.
And then the big one, Claude Monet, probably the most famous impressionist.
Absolutely. Monet is Impressionism for many people. Think water lilies, haystacks.
Right, those series paintings, where he paints the same thing over and over, but at different times of day and different weather.
Exactly. All to capture how light and atmosphere totally transform what we see. It's all about that immediate visual sensation, that impression, a real departure from the storytelling or social commentary of earlier movements reacting to industry.
It's like he's showing us how seeing itself works, almost.
You could say that. It's about perception, the fleeting moment, the subjective experience of looking at the modern world.
Okay, wow. So we've journeyed from Romanticism's emotional response and focus on nature,
through realism's direct look at social realities.
To Impressionism's focus on the visual experience of modern urban life.
Yeah.
If we tie it all back together, what's the main takeaway from looking at these sources?
I think the big thing is just how powerfully art reflects and responds to its time. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just about economics and technology. It fundamentally changed how people lived and saw the world, and artists were right there trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, each movement offered a totally different perspective on those massive changes.
Right. Romanticism looking back, maybe, or inward to feelings. Realism looking straight at the social consequences. Impressionism capturing the look and feel of the new modern environment.
So to quickly sum up for you listening, Romanticism often contrasted the industrial world with nature and intense emotion. Realism got down into the grit, depicting everyday life and the problems of industrial society. And Impressionism focused on capturing the fleeting visual moments of modern urban life, influenced by new tech and social habits.
And these weren't neat little boxes either. They overlapped, argued with each other, built on what came before. It was a dynamic, creative conversation happening through art.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how these movements, born from that specific era of upheaval, still resonate and influence art today.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on. How do you see artists today responding to our era of rapid change? Think about digital technology, social media, globalization, climate change. Are there echoes of romanticism, realism, or even impressionism in how contemporary artists grapple with the 21st century? What might future generations see in the art being made right now?
That's a great question to ponder. Okay, before we wrap up, here are a few self-assessment questions based on what we've discussed, just to help you consolidate things. What were some of the key ways that industrial society differed from earlier periods, and how might these changes have influenced artists? How did Romanticism offer a contrast to the changes brought about by industrialization? Can you think of other ways people might seek escape from rapid societal change? In what ways did realism try to address the realities of industrial society? Why do you think it was important for artists to depict everyday life and social problems? How did Impressionism reflect the changes in urban life and technology during the Industrial Revolution? What other aspects of modern life do artists explore today? Can you see connections between the themes explored in Frankenstein and some of the discussions around technology and its impact on society today?
Really good questions to think about.
Definitely. Well, thanks for diving deep with us today.